Hey everyone, welcome back to your classroom. I'm your host, Thatcher Taylor, certified financial planner, and this is the Functional Retirement Podcast. We got a good one today. This is all about trust, and we're going to talk about being careful with who you trust and getting your retirement advice from the wrong source and how it can cost you. And this whole podcast was created because of an experience I had this past weekend at Home Depot, where the home professionals are supposed to be. One of the biggest name brands, arguably the biggest, I think it's bigger than Lowe's, but one of the biggest name brand for home projects in the world. And I got duped. And you can probably already think in your mind where I'm going with this. You go to a place that's supposed to seem like it's the biggest name and the biggest brand in the industry, and you get duped. Well, I got duped. So let me tell you, the story is really important. So I live here in Boise, Meridian, Idaho, just a suburb of Boise. We're coming out of winter, and we've had some great spring weather. And our backyard gets a lot of shade. And so there's some dead spots. We've been working on the yard since we bought the house to get it a nice, smooth, even grass. So it's going to take a few seasons to kind of work through it and clean it up. Well, it's time to overseed. So I got to lay down some new seed, chop it down, lay down some new seed. I wanted to cover the seed with something very nutrient rich. My dad, my old man, my daddy, he's always told me stories about how my grandma, when she gardened, she had an amazing garden, used to just use manure. So at Lowe's and Home Depot, specifically Lowe's, you can buy really high quality bags of manure. That's what I did last year, and it worked really well. So I want to do that again. But Lowe's was closed. This was on Easter. I know I shouldn't have been working on Easter, but I needed to get it done. Home Depot was open. So we go to Home Depot. I find the Home Depot, not Home Depot brand, but the brand that they use is pretty much bags of manure, treated, very nutrient rich manure. I'm with my wife. I'm with my two kids. They're being very helpful. We load up on a cart 12 bags of manure. We have to go grab a couple of things, a spray nozzle because ours broke, and we had to go, I think, get a rake. So a couple of things that we got to get. We got to get some grass seed, some fertilizer. I walk by a guy wearing the famous orange smock from Home Depot. And I say to him, just to confirm what I thought I already knew and what I've done before that I've seen success with. I just confirm with him, hey, we're overseeding our yard. We got to fill in some dry spots, some dead spots. So I want to make sure good grass comes in. This is the right stuff. This is the good manure that you have here at Home Depot. I usually get it from Lowe's. And he goes, the professional. I can't even believe it. But the professional, the guy that I'm trusting in this moment, he goes, no, you don't want that. You want to go back over there and you want to get the Scott's Turf Builder, the bags of the Scott's Turf Builder. That's going to work better for you. With my kids and my wife standing there, at the time, I trusted him. It made sense. He's working in the outdoor area. He's the professional. So we go back. We unload 12 bags of manure, which, by the way, is only $2.50 a bag. We go load up the Scott's Turf Builder, which is $10 a bag. Or I think it's $8 a bag. We load it up, we pay for it, we take it home. At this point, I've not done my own research. I already knew what I wanted to do. I took a detour from the professional. I know what I want to do. Took a detour, the professional. So we go home, we start the project, do all the things we need to do. We start we lay out all of the Scott's Turf Builder over the seed that we had already laid out to help level and plant the lawn, get some nutrient-rich, dense coverage of the new grass. As we lay it out, we notice, because it's hard to see when it's in the bag because there is some other stuff in there. but the bags are so much wood chips. There's so many wood chips that get laid out, and we don't notice until we get it smoothed and laid out. And now it's been a few days I've been watering the yard and it's been settling. I have wood chips all over my yard, which may be fine organic material over time. But then we get these wood chips laid out that same day. We start questioning it. Then we start doing our research. We do research after the implementation. I can't put all the stuff back in the bag. Reviews and reviews and reviews in Reddit threads of how terrible Scott's Turf Builder is. That at one time, Scott's Turf Builder may have been the thing. But over time, as we've maybe seen in a lot of products and services, the quality has decreased. They maybe have added more wood chips to make sure the bags are filled. My recommendation that was given to me by the professional at Home Depot was a terrible recommendation. My yard is full of wood chips. I'm not going to get that smooth, even grass feel. When grass pops through, my kids are going to be out there playing. They're going to be stepping on wood chips. It's going to take months or maybe even years for those wood chips to break down, depending on what type of wood chips they are. I did my research. I went with another bit of research, and it led me bad advice. This is the same thing that happens to retirees as they start planning and preparing to implement retirement. What a good analogy. Doesn't it make perfect sense? But before we continue, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for the support. I hope you've been liking these videos now that they're on YouTube. If you want to continue to just listen to them, you can get them on Spotify. You can get them on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever your favorite platform is. If you have any questions or there's something on your mind that you would like me to make a podcast about, please go down below in the show notes. My email is there. Feel free to send me an email with any of those questions or give me any feedback on what you would like for me to change through these podcasts. Thank you again. Like, subscribe, follow. Now let's continue. So this just added another layer on how I generally in life am very, very skeptical of any advice that I get. My wife yells at me all the time. She's very trusting. I'm not. I don't believe or trust anybody. You could work at a makeup shop but not know anything about makeup. You could work at a shoe store. If you go to Dick's or Scheels, you will talk to someone about shoes. They're just working the area. They don't know anything about shoes. There's no shortage of people ready to tell you what to do, just like there's no shortage of people ready to tell you what to do with your money. Maybe it's not a professional in the workplace. It could be. Maybe there's someone at Fidelity telling you what to do with your money. Maybe there's someone at Edward Jones. Maybe there's someone at Schwab. Maybe there's some independent advisor like me telling you what to do. And they don't know what they're talking about. I think it's more prevalent in the big names where you get trusting of the big name because they're big, but they're not actually giving you high quality advice. They haven't scaled properly. But it could be your neighbor, your brother-in-law, some person at the gym, or even more prevalent, some random person on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram. But that's me too. I'm doing the same things. So, how do you start to filter this out? Some of them start to sound confident. Some of them even have titles and the letters behind their name, like me, CFP, Certified Financial Planner. But confidence is not competence. And just because someone works in a financial office or a home improvement store does not mean that they've done that research to give you great advice. They don't know the intricacies of what they're talking about or the developments over the years. Maybe Scott's Turf Builder was great 20 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, but now it's terrible. When I spread these wood chips all over my lawn instead of a good bag of treated manure, I waste time and money. In retirement, bad advice can cost you years of financial security, potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars with bad advice. Okay, so here's what bad advice looks like, and here's what I've seen in my practice, but also after 15 years, I've worked at Edward Jones, I've worked at Vanguard, I've worked at Thriving Financial, I've seen all the mutual fund companies, the annuity companies, the insurance companies. I've seen it all at play. And here's what I've noticed. Here's some things that people usually get bad advice on, whether it's from a big firm or whether it's from your friend, neighbor, colleague, buddy, or social media, is first Social Security. People take Social Security at bad times. Social Security optimization literally could provide you so much more income in retirement in the event that you live longer, but also in the event that you pass away early, but maybe you have a spouse that lives longer. There's a variety of reasons where people guide you in the wrong direction of Social Security. Next, people investing in products that they don't understand because someone recommended it at a seminar. I just spoke to someone who had an annuity, an indexed annuity. They bought it 5 years ago. It's been 5 years and it's worth the same amount that it was 5 years ago. It has not earned any money and they can't technically touch it unless they surrender it and pay a fee for another 5 more years. This applies to annuities. This applies to random obscure investments. This applies to life insurance. This applies to a lot of things that are very complicated that the quote unquote salesman is confidently explaining to you, but they do not fit. They do not make sense. The Scott's Turf Builder maybe been phenomenal, but in a totally different situation. What if you had a random hole or patch that wasn't going to be played on? It was maybe in a field or an area of the yard that really needed to be filled in. Maybe that's it, but not playable surface, what I needed. Another thing that I've seen are the avoidance of more complex topics like the utilization of 401ks, whether you need to be using Roth or pre-tax, how much you need to be investing, what you need to be investing in. Do you need to use passive investments? Active investments seem to be the great thing to time the market or to outperform your passive or index investments when in all actuality, it does not. A lot of these are very generic. You follow advice, it's unvetted, you don't really know what it is, it's flat out wrong. You risk locking in bad decisions that you look back on and they were a terrible mistake. And it's sometimes hard to unwind. So, how do you tell good advice from bad advice? So, how do you know if the person giving advice actually knows what they're talking about? Or how do you know whether or not the advice is coming from a good place? I'm going to give you some things that you can filter through, kind of a list or simple questions that you can ask. When you ask them for advice and they tell you, simply ask them, how do you know that? How do you know that? I should have asked the guy at Home Depot, okay, that's interesting going from this to Scott. What do you like about Scott's Turf Builder? Question mark. Also, I should have done my own research. I should have right there with my phone Googled Scott's Turf Builder. I'd have seen that right away. So ask them, how do you know? A follow-up question, what makes you think that? Secondly, ask about their credentials. Like if someone asks me, what are your credentials? I would say I'm fully licensed, but I'm also a certified financial planner that has to adhere to very rigorous, ethical, and guidelines to be a part of the Certified Financial Planning Board, which means I have to do continuing education and my ongoing due diligence to make sure what I'm recommending is in the best interest of you. Which leads to my next question, how do you make your money? I only get paid by you as the client in a fee for service, as I'm a fee only firm. No products or services that I recommend to you pay me. I only get paid by you as the client. So it reduces conflicts of interest. So you could ask them, what are your conflicts of interest with this? Have they asked you about you or your family, your goals, or your financial picture? How in depth have they gone? Or are they just concerned about how much money you have and what you want to do with it? Do they ask additional thoughtful questions before the recommendation? Maybe the guy at Home Depot should have been, okay, tell me a little bit more about what you're looking to do. Are you looking to fill in some random hole in the corner that you're not going to really be utilizing in some big field? Or are you looking for a very playable lawn so your kids aren't stepping on wood chips for years on end until the grass grows or the wood chips break down? What kind of firm do you work for? I mentioned it before, but do you just sell life insurance or annuities? Do you do comprehensive planning? Do you just do investments or do you do more planning? How do you incorporate Social Security, Medicare, and income distribution strategies into your decisions? How do you incorporate my family? There are a lot of questions that you can start digging in to really figure out whether or not this person is a professional. What's your experience been like? What's your income distribution strategies? How do you invest? What's your investment methodology? How does that fit into what you're doing? And does the advisor continue to ask questions about you to make sure that they're giving the proper advice? That's how you tell good advice from bad, is the depth of questions that you continue to ask. And I strongly suggest you need to avoid being concerned about hurting other people's feelings. I get that way, being very agreeable. I should have dug deeper into the Scott's turf builder with the individual that I was speaking to. Not to necessarily hurt his feelings, but just to verify. But if it hurts his feelings, if it starts to come out that maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about or is a bad recommendation, that's not on you. That's on them. So, what's the cost of bad advice? The turf builder, it costs me $100 and a few hours of my time. I mean, no big deal, but I don't love that. But in retirement planning, really high quality retirement planners know that retirement is years and could be decades. And so decisions compound. Bad advice could lead to paying thousands more in taxes. Like, what if someone told you to go to Roth 401k during your highest earning years, but later in retirement, you're in a lower tax bracket? So you paid a bunch of money up front when you could have saved it on the back end, or vice versa. Say an advisor keeps telling you to go pre-tax when you should have gone Roth because you're going to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement. You're going to be paying more in taxes. That could cost you thousands. I already mentioned Social Security benefits. Depending on when you distribute Social Security, if you distribute early, you're going to lock in a lower benefit. And when you get cost of living adjustments, it's going to be off a smaller benefit. Your full benefit is at age 67 for most people if you're born after the year 1960. And if you wait to age 70, you're going to get an even bigger benefit, potentially 30% more than your full benefit at age 67. If you live longer, this could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. But not only for you, what about a spouse? Your spouse gets the bigger benefit with whoever passes away first. So you could be saving, or you could be avoiding. How do I want to phrase this? Because it's kind of unedited. Sorry. You could be missing out on tens of thousands of dollars by taking Social Security at the wrong time. Another thing is choosing investments that aren't aligned with your risk tolerance or income needs. This is putting clients into too many bonds or fixed income or annuities or life insurance for retirement when you just need a traditional investment methodology that's going to maximize your return with minimal costs. Finding the right product that fits matters. You need money later in retirement. You need to make sure that your assets are still growing. People will sacrifice that growth for quote unquote security. And because you're in something secure, you miss out on that growth. It locks you up, more charges, more costs, more fees to get the security, which you don't end up making out in the long run. There's a lot of ways that you could be affected. Taxes are a big one. There's so many different elements in taxes that are affected with bad advice. But the saddest part is people don't even realize that the advice that they got was bad until it's too late. Kind of like me. I already laid out the turf builder. I can't put it back in the bag. Okay, so here's my advice. Most people need some sort of professional to guide them through this retirement situation, accumulating for retirement and through retirement. But before you make a big decision, ask yourself, am I trusting a Home Depot employee version of financial planning? Or am I trusting someone who actually knows how to grow the thing you care about that you're going to put so much time and effort in? Again, my yard, $100 in a few hours is no big deal compared to the destruction that can happen in retirement without good planning. If you want real advice from someone who's done the research, that's done the ongoing education, someone who really dedicates their life to the success of pre-retirees, who understands your full picture, and who's trained to optimize every part of your retirement, that's what you need to find. Now, shameless plug, that's what I do. But I can't help everyone. So there are a lot of really good advisors out there that you can find, usually fee-only advisors or people that have very minimal conflict of interest that really care about developing a financial future that fits what you want. If you want to chat with me, you can go to ProPath trustworthyfinancial.com. Schedule a call with me. Just fill out the quick little questionnaire just so I can learn a little bit about you. You can also hit the link below, but spend time researching the people that you may talk to. Take the time. It's important to do the due diligence to make sure you're speaking to someone that knows what they're talking about. But take the time, make sure you're putting in the effort to ask additional questions, and don't just trust the big names. There is no necessarily additional value by just going to work with some big name. It doesn't mean a thing. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I scared you straight to make sure to ask those additional questions. If you would like to hear more, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is below. But thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.